How do stands really see their users? Let's start with Jotaro Kujo's Star Platinum. Unlike Echoes, it can't communicate directly and mostly just lets out battle cries. However, official material states that Star Platinum has its own personality. After the fight with Noriaki Kakyoin, Jotaro once remarked that it could be a bit brutal. In the manga, Star Platinum often smiles in battle, sometimes even contrasting Jotaro's own expression. Maybe it's because Jotaro always holds it back, and at the very beginning, he even called it an evil spirit. So deep down, it might feel a little frustrated, but overall, it remains very obedient. By contrast, Jean-Pierre Polnareff and Silver Chariot share a much closer bond. Chariot has been with him since he was young, and Polnareff never looked down on it despite its simple abilities. He even trained his swordsmanship for years for it. The two feel more like partners fighting side by side. Among the more intelligent stands, Echoes and Spice Girl stand out. Echoes wasn't understood early on, and was even mistaken for disappearing during its evolution, which made its personality more irritable over time. Spice Girl, on the other hand, often guides Trish when she's still inexperienced, acting more like a mentor. Of course, not every relationship is smooth. Take Enrico Pucci and Whitesnake, for example. Whitesnake is constantly sent on dangerous missions, and even ends up as a sacrifice in the fusion process. If it truly had full emotions, it might not be entirely satisfied. So if stands had complete self-awareness, would they stay loyal to their users, or choose to rebel? Among all the JoJo protagonists, who truly deserves the title of the strongest? First is Jonathan Joestar. If we ignore Stans and Hamon and only look at physical strength, he might actually be the strongest of them all. He stands at 195 centimeters tall and weighs over 100 kilograms. In pure raw power, almost nobody compares to him. Next is Joseph Joestar. His greatest weapon was never strength, but intelligence. Back in Part 2, he constantly outsmarted his opponents and stayed several steps ahead. Then comes Jotaro. Star Platinum has been called the strongest stand by Araki multiple times. Power, speed, precision, it excels in nearly every category. Part 4's Josuke could be considered the strongest at the start. Before the story even began, he had already mastered Crazy Diamond for many years. And Crazy Diamond itself is incredibly balanced in both offense and defense. Then there's Giorno. Gold Experience Requiem possesses the terrifying ability to reset actions to 0. Back around Part 5, it was even described as an ultimate power beyond existing stands. Finally, Johnny Joestar. Tusk, Act 4's infinite rotation, has one of the deadliest attacks in all of JoJo. Once it lands, escaping its effects is nearly impossible. Who do you think is the true strongest JoJo protagonist? If Jotaro, after Dio's defeat, found a young Giorno, what would he do? First, he wouldn't harm the child. Even though Giorno is Dio's son, he was still just a kid, no threat, and completely innocent. So would he just ignore him? Not likely. But having Jotaro raise him himself is even less realistic. At that time, he was still a high school student, barely able to take care of himself. And Jotaro is naturally distant, not good at expressing emotions. If he raised Giorno, Giorno might grow up just as cold. So clearly, Jotaro isn't suited to raise a child. And you can see that from Jolene's upbringing. So the more reasonable choice is to entrust Giorno to someone else. First option, Joseph Joestar. By bloodline, Giorno is technically Joseph's uncle, so giving him to Joseph actually makes sense. Joseph is outgoing, funny, and good with people. He also has experience taking care of kids, but the issue is, his lifestyle isn't stable. As a long-term guardian, that comes with risks. In comparison, Holy Kujo is a better choice. She's gentle, patient, and deeply devoted to family. She can provide a stable and safe environment. For a child, that matters more than anything. So if this really happened, and Giorno was raised by Holy, would he still become the same person later on? Why didn't the Stardust Crusaders just fly straight to Egypt? A lot of people assume it was only to stretch the story, but the real reason is a lot more practical. First, they actually did try flying. Early on, their plane was attacked by the stand Tower of Grey. It nearly caused a disaster and put everyone at serious risk. That incident alone made it clear that traveling by air was not safe at all. Second, Dio's influence had already spread widely. He could control people using flesh buds. That means pilots, ground staff, even maintenance crews could be under under his control. If anything went wrong mid-flight, there would be no way to respond. Third, stand battles depend heavily on the environment. In the air, there's almost no margin for error. If a fight damages the plane, the situation escalates instantly. If the cabin is compromised, the result could be catastrophic. Fourth, traveling by land or sea gives far more flexibility. They can change direction, hide from enemies, or stop and respond when needed. If danger appears, they have options. But on a plane, once something happens, you can only endure it. Fifth, the journey itself was designed as an adventure. From Japan to Egypt, each location introduces a new opponent and a new situation. This structure builds the pacing and variety of the story. If they had flown the whole way, would they have made it safely to Egypt?